We're gonna do this. I wasn't planning on doing this today, but somebody's like, "Oh, Destiny and Abba debated," and it looks like they're talking about something very silly, and that is the whole thing. It looks like the prank where the guy went into the mall and was pranking the guy. It's something that I talked about on my Rob and Dan channel. My wife and I talked about it, and we had an interesting conversation about it. I'm curious what goes on here, what they have, the Destiny and Abba have to say, though.
I just want to go after Steven for a second. You are so hypocritical.
Oh, are you actually doing this?
Yeah, I'm 100% doing this.
I can bring it to Kyle Rittenhouse. Is that what they're going to talk about?
You don't even let me talk. You don't even know.
No, hold on, no. I'm gonna ask Abba one quick question because this whole line of training you're about to go down is Abba. If those guys were 20 yards away from them, do you think the guy could have said, "Hey, I've got a gun, get back," or do you think he would still be able to pull it out and snipe them from 20 yards away? No.
I think you had more time to say, "Hey, I got a gun, get back," you know.
Abba, what are you doing?
That's the thing. Based on it, because I talked about it with my wife, and I watched it. I watched it twice. I watched it on my stream and then with my wife. And the conclusion I came to with that whole situation is, first of all, it seems like him pulling the gun was like a little too much. The guy wasn't being super aggressive in a way where I personally think it was necessarily warranted for him to shoot the guy. That being said, from that guy's position, if I was a lawyer that was defending the pranksters, and I don't like YouTube pranks for the most part because it usually involves harassing people annoyingly. But if I was going to be the lawyer for the person who the prankster, I would say, hey, they were doing a prank, and that person's life was not in any immediate jeopardy, and there was no thing that was like physical, and that was a massively disproportionate response to what was going on, which I tend to agree with. But then on the other hand, if I was a lawyer for the other guy, I would say, you're talking about somebody who's got, if I was a lawyer for the shooter, I'd say, well, this guy is 6 inches shorter than the other guy. The other guy's walking at him incoherently, just showing him his phone. Physically, it's somewhat aggressive enough to be concerned. And nobody in their right mind would ever engage in that. And if he pulled the gun out as a threat, he was so close they could have slapped it out and they could have physically hurt him. So when it comes down to this, I mean, you could let the court decide. I don't necessarily care either way. I still do personally think that it was a bit of a disproportionate response, but I also kind of get it. I kind of get it. Hey, what's going on?
Jesus Christ.
How you doing, Tipster? How's things going, man?
Hold up, Steven, I don't even think what I just said is crazy.
Did you see the prankster getting shot? I saw the prankster getting shot thing. That was not self-defense in any size, shape. Like, that was just wild.
But listen, this is the thing that Destiny's not taking into consideration. It was kind of funny. It wasn't. The guy's still alive, so it's okay for me to say that. But I fucking hate these pranksters. Just go around harassing people. It's so annoying.
The jury was unhinged and out of control. I don't know if the state is going for appeal or whatever. I don't know how much they even care, but that was not even remotely self-defense. That was, how long did they even deliberate on that? From somebody shoot shoplifters? Amen. Amen, Pisco. That's the world. That's Destiny's world. Yeah.
I feel like that's a pretty normal, bland take. Like, what's the problem here?
I think I saw that they just closed. Abba was in chat. At first they were split and came back later with not guilty. Oh, yeah, that was wild. If someone is harassing you for over 2 minutes and they don't stop.
They didn't say not guilty on everything, though, right? It was not. What was the not guilty verdict on? It wasn't on the entire thing.
Are you allowed to shoot them? No. No. At first I was on the shooter side because the story came out first, but then I saw the video. Bro, that guy was not even remotely threatened. Am I crazy? Were there different videos out that I didn't see? The guy was definitely annoying.
I think it was not guilty of malicious wounding, right? Is that what it is? But he still might get, and I could be wrong, but I think he still might get charged with it's still in general with like endangering the public or something. I think it's a little more complicated, and I'm fucking dumb.
But bro, this dude 200 millisecond hip fire, it was like boom. It was like I think I said yesterday, some revolver ocelot shit. Oh my god. I wonder if we should consider ever revealing jury members' identities of misconduct is deemed to be abusing the fragile justice. Wait, what? That sounds.
Why would you do that? That's fucking ridiculous. You're gonna reveal the juries so that that they can feel threatened by whatever decision they make and potentially get hurt, so they can't be honest. What the fuck is that?
Hinged.
The dumb.
That was self-defense. They deliberated for a full day. Oh wait, did I miss something? Self-defense, there probably needs to be some reasonable assessment of how threatened you are, and there probably needs to be some reasonable...
I think that a lawyer could do a decent job at arguing that a person had a reasonable claim to feel like he was being for self-defense.
Escalatory pathway for defending yourself. It's not enough to say...
Because he was so close that, again, you could argue that him just brandishing the weapon could have caused he could have gotten knocked out of his hand. At the same time, you could also say the fact that he escalated so quickly is concerning because, that guy might go off if somebody farts near him. And he pulls a fucking gun out. That's a whole conversation about, should he even be able to necessarily concealed carry.
That because a guy is big and a little bit intimidating in front of you in a public place, but you can instantaneously go for the execute. Okay? That's probably not... That's a wild...
Yeah, but he's also pranksters. Okay. Okay.
That is a wild take. That is a wild take. All right? Unless I'm missing... Somebody can link me another video. Unless I'm missing something, I don't think there were any reasonable... Now you're wrong on this one. Not only am I not wrong, there's loads of case evidence to back me up on this.
It's interesting that people care so much about this that we're let's have a fucking fight about it. Listen, who cares? I'm here for it, by the way. I care in the sense that this is fun drama we're about to engage in between Destiny and Abba. But at the same time, this is such a case where it's I don't feel strongly enough to have this fucking heated debate with somebody about it personally,
Right.
It's just it's I guess maybe that's what it is. It's fun. It's kind of funny. It's kind of fun. Nobody's actually, in a bed. The guy's okay, which is good. He should be okay. But I think it should be illegal to be harassing people as a prankster or something. Something. I don't know.
There needs to be a reasonable threat to your life, or the person possesses the ability and has the inclination to do great bodily harm to you, and it is an imminent threat. You can say I'm wrong if you want, but I'm not. I mean, there's so much case law to back me up here. It's not even an argument. That's an unhinged. That is a wild take.
You know what? There's also another thing too, though, that strengthens Destiny's argument. My understanding is if you want to have a concealed carry permit, you're supposed to. That's a high bar. Or you're held to a higher expectation in scenarios where your life is threatened. You're supposed to, and I don't know the specifics of this place, you're supposed to go through different classes and courses that teach you the different levels of escalation you're supposed to engage in, and the way you're supposed to appropriately react. And you're supposed to be, and this is my understanding, and if it's not the way it is, I think it should be like this. My understanding is you're supposed to be held to a higher standard than somebody else. So you're supposed to have been trained to an extent on the degree of escalation or the degree that you should be able to escalate. I think that's how it works in some areas. I don't know if it works wherever the fuck area he has, but if that is the case, then that would be another argument as well to say well, he had a concealed carry permit. He's supposed to be held to this particular standard.
I mean, I say that, but to be fair, juries have ruled on both sides of this historically. I don't know what Is there any recourse when your jury is retarded?
Okay.
Yes. And it's called not going to trial. This is why people like to settle out of court. Or I say settle. This is why people like plea bargains and stuff.
Okay. Don't use that word, Destiny. It's not nice.
Because you never know what a jury's going to say. You truly don't. Destiny, he didn't shoot him in the head or something. He shot him in the stomach. First of all...
Well, I feel like the stomach can really hurt you. I feel like there's stuff in your stomach that will fucking kill you, if you get shot. I mean, the head is obviously probably worse, but still.
It is highly possible to shoot somebody and lethally kill them by shooting them in the stomach.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
I know that we're kind of in video game land. Where
not my stomach. Mine just pop off. They go... They just shoot back at the shooter. People always say, why are you so fat? It's because I'm immune to fucking bullets. You shoot me and it'll bounce back at you. So
stomach shots are 2 points, and other than headshots, you never die. Okay, but Destiny's just wrong on this one. How can I be
Destiny, if you get opt in the stomach, you die in one shot. Now, if you get opt in the foot, you have 8 health left. And as long as that's my understanding.
On the other end here, I'm the most pro self-defense kill people guy on the fucking internet right now. Okay, that's a left-leaning person. If you're disagreeing with me on this, you're probably unhinged. Wait, link me the video. Hold on, link me the video. Maybe I'll watch it again and have a different take. Link me the video. Hold on. I think, not to be mean or write you guys off, but I'm pretty sure people just hate pranksters.
I want to get to the...
So there's just
True, but that's true. Listen, my understanding is Gideon's retiring, and I wonder if that has an impact. He did pranks, and I'm not saying he's a bad guy, I just don't like pranks, especially the ones that harass fucking low-wage workers. I think it's obnoxious, but really anybody. But I wonder if that's part of the motivation,
like all common sense like goes out the window. That's everything, so he dies. A minute and a half video.
I'm trying to get to the Abba. Oh, I'm trying to get to the point where he has a conversation with Abba. Sorry, I'm muted for a second.
Bro, hold on. Is there more to this?
It's fine.
If a male is aggressively following you after you try to de-escalate, you absolutely should be able to shoot. Aggressively following you? Bro, listen, you're in a public area. Talk to an adult, okay? I got a lot of sympathy for my fellow 5'8" man that's out there. But go find an adult and say, hey, this guy with the backwards baseball cap is bullying me. Apparently more happened prior to that. If there's significantly more, there's something different before this, then maybe,
Yeah, even my wife was like, the way that you described it to me, I thought it was going to be much worse.
then my opinion could be swayed. But this was the video that I saw. Is there something else that changes this?
What does that mean? No one wants to go around popping people? What do you mean by that? I don't think most people want to have the use of violence. So here's my thing. First of all, to the argument, no one wants to go around popping people. I just fundamentally disagree. I think that there are people who want to hurt people, and they're looking for a justifier to do that. This, of course, 1000%. People do this shit all the time. People, especially, I don't know, maybe it's me, but especially men have these feelings of moment of glories inside of them. They're like, I wish somebody would fuck with me today, and I will roundhouse their ass, you know? So on that, I'm not saying that this guy did want to hurt him. I'm just saying that there are plenty. I think that there's a good amount of people who are looking for a fight. To the other thing, we don't know his trauma. You know, that might be true. He might have some kind of trauma, but at the same time, that's a whole conversation of, does somebody's past experience justify them doing a thing to somebody that would be considered generally disproportionate? So if we agreed that this situation was disproportionate, which I tend to lean towards, just because he has a trauma, does that justify what he did? Maybe in the court of, maybe once you get to the court of law, but it's kind of a slippery slope, because then how do you prove it? And then in the future, do people just start weaponizing their mental health and saying, well, I have a trauma from this, it was justified? You know, I just kind of wonder all the optics of that. Thank you so much for the 10-month king gut from Barbarian Babe. Thank you so much. Did anyone see the guy who was stabbed on the sidewalk? It only took seconds for that to happen. I don't blame people for being super trigger happy. That's also fair.
My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer.
Canadian? Why do we ever care? Wait, does he have more of the video or no?
Before something turns awful. All right, let's have a look at this video. As I said, we're going to watch through it once just to see it as it is.
I mean, he did say stop a couple times. I mean, it's something to think about. Yeah, fuck around, find out.
All right, so got to cut out the actual moment of the shooting because it's YouTube.
There's got to be more. There's got to be more than this. There has to be.
Well, yeah, there is more to it. If you look at the video, the raw video itself, he actually does a Fortnite dance on the guy after he kills him. He teabags.
Be more than this.
Want to see that? Also be here, and it's this county or anybody like that. They're not going to pick a place where somebody can come in to help. So let's.
The pranks they went up to him saying a proof that he was a pedo, then played the audio. Chasing him down with his friend, there was a threat. Yeah, it's definitely a type of threat, but not every threat is like severe bodily harm. You understand that, right?
Yeah, true.
Sorry, but if a tall, huge dude puts his hands in my face.
The guy was advised to stop. That was his warning, and he ignored it. If it wasn't a gun warning, but a sign nonetheless, he should have stopped. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that 100%. I 1000% agree with that. At the end of the day, we're talking the YouTubers' intention. This is the thing, is the YouTuber's goal was to be intentionally provocative. So you take that into account as well. And it's like, well, he's trying to provoke you. And this is the thing, just because YouTuber may not actually have the intention to provoke him doesn't matter, because that's an internal experience. We can't prove that he didn't want to do a particular thing. You know, for all we know, he's walking around like a fucking aggressive asshole saying stop. He's like, stop, stop, stop. And he just won't stop. And it's like, okay, I don't know what this guy is. You can't tell what he's thinking in his head. And then you act based on that thought. If you're like, I don't know what he's thinking, I'm not going to put my fucking autonomy on the line. So,
while advancing with his friends surrounding me. Well, without knowing it's a prank, it's reasonable to assume an assault is imminent for many people. Bro, you're 100% thinking this because it's a prankster YouTuber. Bro, I
did he deserve to get shot? No. Was it funny? Absolutely. I kind of disagree. Legally, do I think it's bad that he got shot? Probably, because I think overall that's a conversation about the way that people will interact in society. This could potentially communicate to people that it is okay to pull out a gun if somebody's mildly annoying you. Right? For any future legal proceedings, this could have a negative impact if it gets so ruled in his favor that it doesn't seem like there's enough consequences. That could signal to people that this behavior is acceptable. That being said, to me, I also think, like, not like legally, if we contained it to this one instance and we don't have this whole societal conversation about it, I think he deserved it. I don't give a fuck, you know? So, yeah.
No shot would you be saying this if it was anything else. I don't believe it.
Abba joins at 14 minutes. I kind of do want to skip to that moment.
No shot would you be saying this if it was anybody else.
Let's keep going.
Oh, let's
So you see immediately his motion is he's moving back. He's clearly feeling threatened. He's backing away from this person. His body language, he's leaning back. and he's ending up against this counter as this much
just
larger
gonna double
person
speed
moves
it
in
till we get there.
clearly to confront him and is getting into his personal space very quickly. This is something that is often
If you pause the video, you'd hear him say, "It's high noon." Boom, and he goes right for it. It's not bad.
a harbinger that you're...
To be fair, I heard you say something along the lines of, I've never surrendered my bodily autonomy and my ass beat in the past. Yeah, but there has to be like a higher standard of a threat. Hold on. Okay, here's the question then. I'm sorry. Let's just iron this out right now. Do you think that anybody getting in your face is justification to shoot and kill people? I'm just curious. If you guys say yes, then you just own that position. That's fine. That could be the world we live in. If that's right.
No, but I think it's a little more complicated than you just getting in his face.
If that's that's peace goes.
Maybe. I think maybe if somebody's getting in your face and you say stop and they continue, I don't know. Because I know that Destiny has the argument that, and I agree with this, but I know that his stance is that if someone else is aggressing onto you and you have no interest in like if they're aggressing onto you and it's not like a mutual aggressive back and forth, then you shouldn't have to put your body on the line to fight back proportionately. Like if somebody's coming at me and trying to punch me and I have a gun, I'm going to shoot him because I don't want this. You're not forced into this arrangement of a fight, but this is what you want to do. And I'm not going to risk fighting you. Even if like I was a foot taller than this guy. I mean, if he gets me a good hit in the head and I go down and I get a fucking TBI, why do I have to engage? Why does that have to happen to me? Why do I need to, why do I have to put my life or my body on the line for something that's not, well, I don't want to engage in this in the first place.
The world, guys. Is that what we're saying? That if somebody gets in your face, that you can shoot and kill them? Is that what is that the standard we have now?
Absolutely. No, I'm just kidding.
So every protester that goes to somebody's face could be shot and killed. Okay. All right. Well, I see we're read in chat. Jesus.
You're about to get
But
attacked.
then I guess the counter argument to that is that the guy wasn't explicitly, like goading the person into a fight, right? It's not like somebody's like, I'm gonna hit you, and they're getting ready to do it. Obviously, you'd have a different argument than this guy who was just being a fucking idiot. But
People don't do this normally. People don't do this unless they have some sort of aggressive intention.
that's true.
Now, you see the two of them move up very close, right up in his face, and the second guy points his finger at him, which is, again, when somebody's getting right in your personal space like that and starts pointing their finger at you, that's also an aggressive gesture. This is something that you use to communicate that that you're willing to escalate to physical violence. These aren't just, sort of casual behaviors. What these guys are doing, what the joke is that they're specifically making people fear that they're about to be physically attacked. And that's also...
Is that the joke? I thought the joke was to be aggressively gay. I'm not trying to be rude, but my understanding is what's said on the phone is something about like fucking the guy, sucking his pee-pee or something. So I thought that the joke was, I don't think that the joke was, I'm going to fight you. I think the joke is just be like obnoxiously, I don't know, gay baiting or something, right?
also reinforced by the nature of the message here. Some people online have said, oh, this is just a, just a weird sort of quirky message. It's not just a weird quirky message. They would spend some time thinking about what message they want to include. And the message again is, hey, dip. So a swearing insult as the lead-in. Quit thinking about my clingle. Well, okay, what is that trying to imply? That sounds to me like a euphemism. And specifically a euphemism that is making an allegation about some sort of homosexual, thoughts or whatever.
Yeah.
This is...
He's trying to be aggressively gay. I know that sounds weird to say it like that. I'm not saying being gay is wrong or anything. I'm just saying that's what it seems like. Yeah.
Says that is. So he's backing up. This is something I consider to be a very high threat scenario. And again, this guy's outnumbered. He's trying to back up, but he's got two people. One of them is substantially larger than he is, confronting him. And this is out of the blue. He has very little time to react. This whole clip is 20 seconds. So he's backing up. He clearly doesn't want any part of this confrontation. Tells them to stop.
The audio is saying, "Stop looking at my Twinkie." Gotcha. Okay, maybe I guess stop looking at his Twinkie, dude. Dude, my weapon skills are so low right now.
He pauses the phone. I don't think that's a great idea. If you knock the phone out of their hands, there's one of two outcomes. One, they go for the phone, and that gives you a chance to make an escape. Or two, they start the violence, and that's not really the outcome you want here. So he's still very concerned here. He's trying to disengage. He's trying to leave. And he tells them that he'll call the cops. He's like, but of course he can't call the cops right now because wait, he's going to pull out the phone.
Oh, he did call the cops. He called his pocket police officer.
Oh, 911, what's your emergency? Police, please hold. Yeah, police. Yeah, there's two guys here who are currently beating my face in. That's not going to work. Calling the police takes some time. Calling the police is something that usually you don't have the luxury of doing when you're in the middle of confrontation. People are typically able to call the police after confrontation. So the guy keeps advancing, keeps coming after him, including continuing to play the threatening message. And he's not speaking directly, he's just continuing to play this, which again makes you wonder, what is this guy? Is he on drugs?
Do you think he finished his food delivery after?
True. Is he on drugs? That's what I'm saying.
That's a 5-star delivery.
Twinkle, not Twinkie? What? What the fuck are you talking about? It's some gay shit, right? Sorry, I don't want to say it like that. I'm not trying to be rude. But that's what it is. It's supposed to be like the gay stuff, no?
Is there some mental illness? What is this guy doing? What is his purpose? He certainly isn't taking stop. He's not taking anything like that. He's adopting a very aggressive stance. One that suggests to him and his buddy. I don't know if this guy knows the cameraman, but he's at number 3-1. But he might only think that he's at number 2-1. But I don't think it's unreasonable for him to think he's about to take a serious beating here. This seems to me to be an entirely rational conclusion. We know after the fact that it's wrong. We know after the fact that conclusion is erroneous. But the only way we know that is because we've got the benefit of hindsight. This analysis here, this discussion takes way longer than he had. Even if you just watch this video and think about it for a few seconds and
perceived threat versus actual threat seems like this whole debate.
That's true too. I mean, we're all deliberating post scenario, but you know.
Yeah, I just usually feel like the bar is a little bit higher to try to kill somebody. like if this was not in a public place, like so for instance, maybe if I saw the light of the mall, maybe I changed my mind. But like if this was in an alley, I think I would be way more on the shooter side. If they were on the street or if this was at night in some place and the guy was not anywhere
I get that,
like with other people, then I would be way on there. Like okay, even if they were in a parking lot, I would feel a lot differently about this. But the guy's in the middle of a mall. Damn, that's just like so wild to me.
I get that. I also think that, listen, I understand what he's saying. I mean, it's more public place. But if you're acting fucking crazy like that guy, well, it seemed like you might have a screw loose. You might be like, okay, obviously that scenario doesn't resonate with him. That being said, if you live in an open carry state, even if you have to get some kind of a permit, I mean, I think that there's also a higher chance that you're going to consider the person that you're interacting with to be armed. And so that might be another factor of him being like, okay, I don't know if this guy has a gun or not. You know, it could be part of it. Dude, are you kidding me right now? Oh my god.
Then, post your thoughts online. You've had way more thinking time than this guy did, and under much better circumstances. This guy doesn't get to sit down in a comfortable chair in a comfortable space and hypothesize.
In your Discord? I'm like traveling around. I can't be streaming for like 15 hours. I don't want to hold the balance. I don't want to get back. I gotta get home tomorrow. I don't even know if my Discord works. Ah, fuck. Hold on 1 second.
I think Abba's coming in soon. Then we could put it back to a normal speed for my weapons.
You want to do this? Want to do this?
All right, Abba's here. We could finally put it back. I'm gonna timestamp this too, so people can like skip to this if they want.
Now?
Yeah, we can go for a little bit, I guess. My only issue is that we're basically creating a rule that like if anybody gets in your face and like starts like acting aggressive, that we can just shoot and kill them, I guess, in any area.
Well, no, I think the reasonable thing that this guy did was ask the person to stop while also retreating. But I do know that in Virginia specifically, you don't have to retreat for self-defense purposes. That's not like a burden that you actually have to achieve for self-defense.
Yeah, but I guarantee you still have to show that there's imminent severe like bodily harm or whatever it could come to you. It's like, or you have to have a feeling about that. That's like standard self-defense almost anywhere.
Yeah, so in this situation, even though the verdict was not guilty, it wasn't like it was instantaneous. So obviously some people had reservations in regards to the whole verdict itself. I think that's why it came back initially split and then afterwards not guilty, which I think is probably accurate about how most people feel about this case. For a lot of people, they do see this as very reasonable self-defense, and that most people, if you got up in their face, they ask you to stop and get away from them 3-4 times, and you don't, and you keep advancing, then yeah, they would see you as someone who's going to cause imminent threat. And the thing is, I can't just wait to see what it is that you're going to do when you're getting up in my face with your hands and whatever it is that you're doing, because by the time I already figure it out, it might be too late. You've already shown that you're a threatening person when I've told you to get away from me, and you're continuing to advance, and obviously him being bigger, taller, all these things factor in, and the fact that he came with somebody else.
Let's say that there were a couple guys that were out with their kids at like a grocery store or a Target, and they got the wrong impression that some guy was like looking at their kid weird or touched their kid. They saw something incorrectly. They fucked up. And let's say the two guys approached like a smaller guy, and like, yo, did you just touch our kid or what's going on here? And the guy's like, no, get the fuck away from me. Like, no, hold on, what the fuck did you do? Are you telling me that in your world that dude can blow both those guys away? He can.
Well, that scenario doesn't sound anywhere comparable. Am I interpreting this right?
Target, and they got the wrong. Let's say that there were a couple guys that were out with their kids.
Okay, two guys out with their kids. They're gay married. Gotcha.
A grocery store or a Target, and they got the wrong impression that some guy was like looking at their kid weird or touched their kid.
Looking at your kid weird isn't a reason to shoot somebody. No, of course. Like, I think it's disgusting to be looking at kids sexually, but that's not the same as potentially physically harming you. And if they went to actually grab on your kid, then yeah, I think it's appropriate for them to get shot, though. Like, if somebody's in public and they go to grab your kid, I don't know what the fuck you're going to do. So, yes, I would say it would be justifiable. But if they're just looking at your kid weird, like from a legal perspective, no. But these seems like a completely different situation.
They saw something incorrectly. They fucked up. And let's say the two guys approached like a smaller guy, and like, yo, did you just touch our kid or what's going on here? And the guy's like, no.
So the guy already touched the kid, and they're like, did you just touch our kid? No, that's not the same thing. The guy, this isn't an imminent threat in any capacity. They've already apparently done the bad thing.
Like, no, hold on, what the f did you do? Are you telling me that in your world that dude can blow both those guys away? He can kill both of them because they're getting into space and being aggressive.
Yeah, probably. If he's telling them repeatedly to get away and they keep advancing on him, I think based off of how the law is set up over where you are, that would be reasonable to combat self. If they're approaching in a threatening manner, yeah. Is that not how the law over there works? Because that's what it sounds like.
In general, no, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure. I think you usually have to show. I say that, but it really depends. There have been some self-defense cases.
If those dads look like they were going to beat up that short person, okay, it's very reasonable for him to be like, I'm being threatened right now by two people, okay, who are angry about something I have no idea about, right? And they're advancing on me. Yeah, I can definitely see that being a valid self-defense case. Can you not? And you have to also think the burden of proof is on the.
Oh wait, who was the person that was the threat? Hold on, who was it? The gay couple?
I don't think so.
Wait, are we saying that the gay couple? I don't know why they're gay to me. Are we asking if the guy who they thought was looking at the kids was the guy with the gun?
Just touch our kid or touch their kid. They saw something incorrectly. They fucked up. And let's say the two guys approached like a smaller guy, and like, yo, did you just touch our kid or what's going on here? And the guy's like, no, get the f away from me. Like, no, hold on, what the f did you do? are you telling me that in your world, that dude can blow both those guys away? He can kill both?
Oh, yeah, then probably, maybe. Okay, so the scenario is that those two thought that he did a bad thing, and they're aggressing onto him in a threatening manner, and he was like, yo, I didn't do anything, leave me alone. Yeah, then I would say, I mean, the context would matter, but like, yeah, I think it would be reasonable for him to defend himself, you know? So, okay, gotcha. I misinterpreted it.
That's what it sounds like.
In general, no, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure. I think you usually have to show. I mean, I say that, but it really depends.
My bad.
There have been some self-defense
Like,
cases.
if those dads look like they were going to beat up that short person, okay, it's very reasonable for him to be like, I'm being threatened right now by two people, okay, who are angry about something I have no idea about, right? And they're advancing on me. Yeah, I can definitely see that being a valid self-defense case. Can you not? And you have to also think the burden of proof is on the prosecution to hit guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Can you really say beyond reasonable doubt?
Wait, no, hold on, careful, okay? For an affirmative defense, it's a little bit different. The burden is beyond a reasonable doubt. Hold on, this might actually depend on the state, but it's beyond a reasonable doubt to convict somebody of a criminal thing, a criminal charge. But if a person is using an affirmative defense, in some states, they have to show that their defense was like, you don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it wasn't self-defense. But I think that might depend on the state. So I would be careful in saying that it's here, yeah. Because I think for Rittenhouse, it was a little bit different, but...
Yes,
Is
you
that
would
where they're going to the Rittenhouse scenario?
have to show that he actually does meet the burden for self-defense. So that is something that the
Well, yeah, in the Rittenhouse situation, the people were aggressing onto him with guns in like in a big crowd. So
defense would have to do. But all this to say, I think you can make that case of self-defense. Many people have and have successfully.
Well, hold on. I think we gotta be a little careful. I agree that like a case for self-defense can be made here. So if the guy like sucker punched the dude in the face and ran or some shit like that, like I'd be like 100% that's okay. But we're talking about, can you kill somebody for getting in your face and being aggressive?
I mean, I guess that would be, you would consider it a lethal action if they have a gun, right? Because you could potentially get shot. But how many times did the guy shoot? That's another. Wait, hold on. I feel like this is also relevant because we get the video cut off. I understand to go to the point where it's like, oh, is it okay to kill somebody because he shot him? But at the same time, how many times did he shoot the guy? Because it sounds like he shoots one time. So I feel like that's relevant. Because if he only shot once, then that doesn't indicate to me that he was trying to kill the guy. It indicates to me that he was just trying to get the guy away from him. So I understand guns are very lethal and he could have killed him. But now we're getting to a conversation of like, well, was it his intent to kill him or was it his intent to distance him? I feel like that's got to be potentially relevant in some capacity. Do we know how many times? In the video, we only hear once. So I'm assuming one. So that might be a factor as well. People are like, okay, he didn't want to kill the guy, but he wanted to distance him with the gun. Right? I think that's a fact. I think it's a factor.
Which I feel like is, like I said before, if this was happening in a different area, if he wasn't in the middle of a mall, I would be a little bit, I'd probably be
We don't know if he misfired either. I mean, that's possible as well. I feel like with that instance, I mean, he's a concealed carry permit. He should know better, but maybe.
on board with this. Again, if it was in the street or at night somewhere.
Well, I mean, I imagine we would have heard that was his argument as like, oh, he misfired, if that was the case, but maybe.
But in the middle of a public area where there's just like two people like in your face, they're not even like screaming at him. They are being aggressive, but I don't think they've touched him at all yet, right? They're kind of in his face, but it could be more. Like, I don't know, man. In the middle of a mall, that just seems wild to me, but yeah, I don't know.
And that's fair for people to be torn on it and say, like, I don't know if I would say that's 100% justified. And I think that's where the jury really was. I think it's only because they were forced to push through and keep going that they eventually came back with not guilty. But the jury is as torn as the public. So I think the law and how...
Even if you think that they made the wrong decision, which I lean more towards, to be honest, I think it's also understandable that, like, based on all the parameters, that it makes sense as to why it happened.
It was applied is fairly indicative of how most people, at least the general public, feels about it. So I don't think this case coming back as not guilty is that absurd. Like, you making it sound like it's crazy, but like, isn't it that? Even you sound kind of torn on it.
No, to pull that gun out and shoot that dude like that quickly, that was pretty wild. That's a pretty crazy video.
I mean, bro, maybe he was fucking Wild Wild West, baby. Maybe he'll get a job at like some kind of like one of those things called where you pretend a historical site, you know?
That dude like almost.
Okay. So let me ask you: if the dude keeps following him, doesn't do anything, okay, but he just keeps repeating the action, at what point can the guy shoot him? Does he have to keep running?
That's a good question.
I mean, the guys haven't touched you yet. I'm trying to think of like if the guys haven't touched you yet, and the guys haven't made an explicit threat. Because unless I misheard it, the guys didn't say anything like "we're gonna get you, we're gonna beat the shit out of you." They haven't made any threat yet, right?
Okay.
They haven't actually touched the guy at all yet.
Yeah, but a lot of times people will get a communication through actions. And again, their action clearly, because we know that they're obnoxious, dumb fucking pranksters, we know that their intention wasn't to actually attack this guy. It was to make content. But their intention is to make the guy feel uncomfortable. And some people might have perceived that, especially since it's not like they were following him. They weren't just following him. They were in his ass. They were in his balls. They were literally trying to swim with his sperm and his fucking cock. So they're right up in his shit. I mean, what other self-defense do you have? Like, stop it. Leave me alone. Should be more than enough. Any normal... This is the thing, too. If you're not a fucking moron, you would have just stopped following the guy. That's what it comes down to. Like, they had the intent to invoke a response. That's the thing. And you could argue that because they had the intent to provoke a response, then they feel comfortable, and they feel like they know they're not going to do anything. They feel too comfortable or more comfortable going disproportionate. It's in a disproportionate way. Like, they're trying to make the guy feel uncomfortable. They're trying to invoke a response. And if they're not getting the response that they want, they're going to keep escalating anyway.
The guy's not even, he's kind of trying to get away, but not really.
What is he supposed to do? Start sprinting? Like,
it's not like the guy is running. Now, like,
he walks away and says, stop. I feel like that's more than enough.
Like, if the guy started running, he's like, yo, get the fuck, and he starts running, and the two dudes like come running after him, maybe a little bit, but like,
no,
damn, this guy, somebody said in chat.
I'm fucking morbidly obese. You think I'm running away? I'm not. I'm fucking, okay? I don't give a shit.
Whole interaction was like,
plus the guys are bigger. Now we get to like, oh well, he wasn't running. If he was running, maybe he has an argument. Okay, but like that guy is shorter, and so the other guy is tall. He's slim looking. He probably runs faster, and that might have been something he factored in as well. It didn't really seem like he was getting away. The guy clearly wanted to be in his space.
17 seconds. I don't know how much of an effort he even made to like really move away. But I mean, people are saying there's no duty to retreat if somebody's being aggressive to you in a public area.
If your argument though was the intention was very explicitly understood that they were just trying to be annoying and like harass him, I guess you consider it sexual harassment technically. And that guy should have been able to identify that. Like, okay, I don't know if I agree with you on that one, but then okay, sure, that's an argument, I suppose.
Maybe, but
I know for a fact for self-defense case law in Virginia, you don't need to retreat. You don't have that responsibility. And my question is, how long would he have to retreat while still enduring the same thing with someone literally being up in his face with that phone the way he was initially being surrounded? How long before he can react is what I'm asking you. Is there like a time threshold for you? You've already said no multiple times or stop and try to move the guy away. The guy kept advancing in a threatening manner, which you may not see it as threatening, but I think for most people, when a big dude is
the guy, it was definitely like threatening. But like there was no physical contact. There was no explicit threat made. It was spooky for sure. I'm just trying to think of.
Well, as you say, his life wasn't in danger in the chat. Like, how do you know? Like, how do you? The question isn't whether his life is or is not in danger. That's not the question. The question is, if we were in the same exact situation where somebody else was more physically imposing onto you, and you said, please stop, or you said, stop following you, you warned them, and somebody was following you in an aggressive manner, maybe not a physical, like in an aggressive manner, do you think that it's reasonable for somebody to interpret that as a threat? We've watched, you've probably, and I've watched this clip so many times at this point that it's easy to be like, yeah, well, if I was in that situation, this is what I would do. But we know all the context. He doesn't. The question was he in some kind of a danger of actual bodily harm? The question is, does he feel like he's in danger of bodily harm? It's the same thing as if you're walking around with a stack of boxes and you're walking around on, let's say, on the streets of New York, and and there's nothing in them, and they're all tied together. So they look like they're stacked up and they're tied so that if you pushed it forward or to the side, it looks like it's about to fall, and then it stops itself very quickly. And if I walked around New York and I started pretending that I was carrying, and it was super heavy for me, and I pranked somebody by pretending to spill the boxes at them, and they jumped to the side and then ended up breaking their leg, you would be like, that's where we're kind of at. Like, you would be like, oh, they have a reasonable perception that they could have gotten hurt, so they jumped out of the way and avoided it, and so I would have to pay for their broken leg. Like, I am liable for that. I know it's not quite the same, but it's more about what the intent, what you feel the most reasonable interpretation is, or what you feel is a reasonable interpretation based on the scenario. And it doesn't have to be the most reasonable interpretation either, because not everybody's going to act perfectly. Like, there's a perfect understanding of what's going on. Like, if the perfect understanding is these two guys are being fucking annoying and they're YouTube pranksters and I'm going to walk away. But that doesn't, like, that's a high burden for everybody to know the context of everything going on always, all the time. That guy's probably hanging out in 4chan, like fucking 4chan, jerking off to fucking I don't know, whatever the fuck's on that, because whatever's going on there. Or watching, he's probably not too invested into the latest prankster YouTuber.
It feels like if anybody ever got confused and thought that you were doing something you weren't supposed to, or whatever, got in your face about it, is it carte blanche to just kill anybody then?
It's not just confusion though.
I would say this: if he'd not said stop 3 times, I think I would be on your side of the story. Okay, if he'd not retreated from the person and the dude advanced on him, or like if he'd not retreated. Sorry, let me rephrase that. If he had not retreated and he just pulled out the gun and started shooting, I might have also felt different. When he
someone following me while not threatening or doing anything to me, but that's not what happened. They are threatening. They are engaging in a threatening manner. It's not like they're just following you. They're following him in his face, holding a phone, not speaking. And when you tell them to stop multiple times, they're not stopping. You're removing context from it. So.
He retreated and he said stop multiple times, and the dude kept advancing. It is reasonable. I could see from his perspective how he felt threatened, and he really felt like there wasn't harm.
Yeah, okay, hold on. You keep saying he felt threatened. I'm not saying he didn't feel threatened. I don't know why people keep repeating this, like, did he feel threatened? Nobody's disagreeing that he wasn't threatened. It was, do you feel like you're threatened to suffer severe and imminent bodily harm?
Maybe.
The argument is not whether he was threatened. Clearly he's threatened. Anybody getting in your face is a type of threat. But was it reasonable for him to fear for his life at that point? In the middle of a mall with 2 guys that are up, like, kind of in your face for 15 seconds? Is that enough to say, I feel so threatened that I'm going to kill? Where they haven't laid eyes on me, they haven't made an explicit threat?
I think it's reasonable here, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there no idea? Is there no thought of like just this is the reason this is wild to me is because is there no thought of a just proportional response? Like, is it because it just seems crazily disproportional to shoot or kill somebody?
Yeah, but the proportional response argument is the proportional response argument. You're assuming that this guy understands what the scenario is. The guy who shot. If you say, well, he should have engaged proportionally, you're trying to make the argument that this guy would understand what the proportional response is and then act disproportionately. That's not the argument. The argument is that he interpreted the response as a different level of proportionality. So the proportionate response, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily go that direction here. It's more about what is the perceived. Can you understand the person who shot? You understand his perspective on the scenario.
There's no proportional response when it comes to these types of situations where the guy is so much taller, right? Because realistically, the short guy is not about to be like, I'm going to punch you. He's probably not going to like, maybe he could sucker punch him, but he's probably not going to be like boxing with the dude, right?
Well, no, but
it's
a matter of
people around you, though, right? Like, hey, like,
you're in a mall, like, you want to say something. Because you don't know. You don't know if the other person's trained. You don't know if the moment you go to punch them, they decide to pull out a knife or pull out a gun. You don't have the luxury of waiting. When someone aggresses you,
okay, wait, hold on.
Of course, you have available.
Are we genuinely making? So I can understand what you're saying to a degree. Obviously, like if I don't know, if you're like a severely disabled person and this person's aggressively walking.
Why do you have to be severely disabled
towards you or something? Obviously, there's probably like a much more rational reason to worry about the risk in actually getting the shit beaten out of you by this guy or killed by this guy.
He's got like 6 inches on him, and he has a friend with him. There's 2. The people not understand it's 2-on-1. Like we're pretending that it's one dude. It's 2 people. It's 2-on-1. I feel like, has that context been completely lost here? Right? It's 2 people. It's 2 dudes. If I pull it up. So, yeah, it's 2 guys that are following him. Yeah, one has the phone, but it's 2 guys.
Here's the... Quit thinking about my twinkle.
What's that mean?
Hey, quit thinking about my twinkle.
No.
Hey, quit thinking about my...
Get on my face and call cops on you. Stop.
Quit thinking about my twinkle.
Stop.
I'm watching it again. Maybe it's not as justifiable. I don't know.
Stop.
I don't know. You know.
Quit thinking about my twinkle.
No.
Hey, quit thinking about my...
Get on my face and call cops on you. Stop.
Quit thinking about my twinkle.
Stop.
I don't know, man. I don't know. He's very close to him. He's close to him, but I don't know if he's necessarily in his personal space in a threatening manner.
Stop.
I don't know, man. I mean, listen, the fact that the guy got off on it is fine. Like, I'm not like, oh, they should reverse the decision. But when I rewatch it, I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know, dude. I don't know, bro. It's just fucking. I can't believe we're gonna do. Well, I don't know.
But like, I feel like it's just obviously the case that just the fact that one guy's shorter than another. Oh, I'm getting aggressively walked towards, so therefore I can shoot and kill the person if I genuinely think there's a threat to my. Like,
again, I don't think that he had the intention of killing the guy. He shot once. He could have shot multiple times.
Like that just seems completely crazy to me.
It doesn't even matter if he's taller or not. I don't even care about that. If some dude is coming to attack you with his fist, doesn't matter. You don't have to reply with a fist. You can pull out your gun and blast him in the face as far as.
No, but he wasn't. Okay, but
True,
but they weren't really doing that, right? Like, I understand. I'm not saying he didn't have a reason to feel threatened to some degree, right? But obviously these weren't guys that, like, I just don't think how, I don't see how we can't say that these.
I mean, the guy in the backwards hat was fucking chill. Are you serious? You think he was actually gonna hurt the guy?
Guy was thinking way over fucking reacting to what was happening to him. That just seems crazy to me, even if you think he was feeling threatened.
I'm feeling threatened right now.
I just didn't think he was overreacting.
No, but that's crazy. Have you heard of Project Veritas?
But Abba, really quick. Okay. So do you think that every time? Here's a good example. Like, do you think that every single police officer who's confronted with like an aggressive citizen,
that doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant to this entire conversation. Police officers are held to exponentially higher standards than the average person. Again, if your argument is that person had, I don't know how Virginia concealed carry works, but if that person had a concealed carry and they had they needed to go through particular training to make sure that they handled their firearm better, or these type of confrontations better since they had a firearm, you can make that argument to a degree. But if that doesn't exist, you can't compare a police officer to a fucking citizen. Police officers are supposed to be highly trained, and it's a completely different scenario. It's a completely different scenario.
Either through protest or in the line of duty, just immediately can kill that person if they can basically just say, "Oh, at one point I feel like I was being threatened by this person."
Scenario.
I feel like cops are different because we would place a higher burden of like performance on them. Like we would expect them to act like with above a normal citizen, right?
Absolutely, that's definitely a portion of it. But I also feel like often cops do use the fact that they felt threatened in the situation to justify their shootings.
Well, yeah, but it's not right. But I get what you're saying. But the point is just that I feel like there's a lot of circumstances where, and I'm not saying circumstances where cops did shoot people, but I feel like if this was generally the rule, we would see like a Boston massacre a day, fucking, of cops like mowing down protesters because a protester's like banging on their shield and like getting in their face or something like that. Just seems.
I think the context of a protest
like be a crazy rule to have, like, oh yeah, that's like generally what we think about how you should handle those types of situations.
Yeah, I think the context of a protest is drastically different than the situation there.
Why? A protest. Let's say it's a rowdy protest. There's a lot of Black Lives.
So you're getting a little rowdy, and there's black people there. That's scary. Like, what is the implication there? Sorry, that was a joke, but what the fuck?
Matter protests that occurred in 2020, where there were people getting in the face of others and violence broke out. Why would you distinguish on those grounds? If anything, it seems like that would be more dangerous than a random.
That would be more dangerous. Exactly.
No, absolutely not. If I'm just walking and some random dude comes up in my face and then he's inches away from me in a situation where I'm not expecting anyone to get close to me, that's completely different than being at a protest where there's counter protesters across on the other side. I would feel far more threatened in that situation where this random dude and his friend approach me randomly. I feel like I might get robbed, I might get stabbed, I might get anything, rather than a protest where it's meant to be confrontational. Those are not the same things.
So at a protest and where there's individuals who are highly heated up, where there's, let's say some exchanges of people throwing rocks, people throwing random bottles on the ground in front of a cop, where tensions are high as they were in the summer of 2020.
It doesn't matter. The cop is supposed to be held to a higher standard. I don't care.
You're telling me that in that context, someone running up to your face and yelling at you in your face, you would consider that, as someone on the other side, let's say counter protester, police officer, you say it's less threatening than what occurred in that mall.
I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios there that would be relevant to this situation. First of all, if it's protester versus protester, and they're both yelling at each other and both being aggressive, I think it's a different scenario. This guy was actively saying stop doing that and walking away. He was disengaging himself from it. So I don't think it's comparable. I just don't. So, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's insane. Have you heard of people like who do sting operations in public, like Project Veritas, or some of the people who are like do kind of to catch a predator stuff in public, where they're going up to people, kind of aggressively trying to show them their phone and saying, "Hey, have you seen this? Why did you do this?" Have you heard of that?
Project Veritas, okay, yeah. What about?
Yeah, where James O'Keefe goes up to people in the middle of the public and tries to show them and is accosting them throughout the mall.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I haven't seen that. Okay. But also, I imagine he's talking and he's actually making his intentions clear. In this scenario where I haven't seen Project Veritas or anything, I thought he was memeing when he said the Project Veritas stuff. But I haven't seen the Project Veritas thing. But what I would imagine is that when people do that, they're asking a specific question. Like, hey, let's say it's a predator catch. Hey, are you trying to fuck a kid, bro? That's crazy. Don't fuck kids. That's probably what he's saying. Is like, hey, you probably should not fuck that kid. So I'm thinking that that's the context there. That would make it a little bit different. because his intentions are made clear. Whereas this situation is like a fucking bad, like the guy is basically a dumb fucking idiot, like a Neanderthal chasing after the guy saying, "Don't touch my booty hole" or something. So, yeah.
Just show me that. Distinguish that.
Okay. Do I think that's the same thing as this situation? No.
Why?
Why? Because I think it's different when it looks like the local news is following me versus when guys with hoodies and big tall
Are
like.
you fucking serious?
I'm absolutely serious. Yeah, I think that's completely different.
Oh, if he wore a suit, you would say not okay to shoot him.
Unironically, yeah, I think that's it's a lot different. Yeah, you're gonna feel a lot different. Like looking at
Wait, hang on a second. I just want to be clear. So what you're saying is same exact conduct, but they're wearing suits. You can't shoot them.
If a dude in a suit walked up to me, I'm going to see him very differently. When
I mean, it sounds like we're kind of diluting what actually happened here, but realistically speaking, if somebody's dressed differently, I'm going to have a different interpretation of them. Like, if somebody's dressed in a fucking suit, they're probably less threatening than a guy that's dressed in some kind of a cut-off T-shirt like me or something. You know, like I'm not trying to even be rude, but like, yeah, I'm gonna probably have a different interpretation of the homeless guy that's wearing like a dirty sweater than the fucking businessman in the suit. You know. That's why I'm willing to give the homeless guy money, because he looks poor, right? So just fundamentally, like, yeah, you'll interact differently based on those things. Usually people don't get into suits to go cause fucking violence somewhere, unless this is the fucking Sopranos.
Got a big ass camera dude behind them that looks like a thing.
That's
like
not what I asked. Same exact conduct, but the only thing different is that they're wearing suits.
Yeah.
But the camera too is, I don't think it was a visible camera, right? The camera was, did the guy see the camera, or did the guy just kind of exist? Because, you know, I feel like if someone's following you with a camera and like, hey, I want to talk to you about this bad thing you did, I feel like that's different than just like, do you want to touch my Twinkie hole, or whatever the fuck he said.
I probably feel differently about it. Yeah, sure.
Okay, I think that's fucking crazy.
Whoa,
that on the basis of determining whether someone is a serious threat to life or serious bodily injury, the thing that's dispositive is whether or not they're dressed nicely.
I'm sorry,
it's not the entire thing. That's like a small factor of this situation. Okay, if somebody's walking around with the fucking backwards hat on, I'm obviously going to think he's more of a douchebag and more deserving of getting hit. I'm just kidding. But kind of true. But no.
If Vaughn rolls up on me, I'm going to feel differently than if some dude in a hoodie rolls up on me. Like, I don't know what it is to tell. Like, that's just a fact. It's an absurd scenario that you've given me.
True.
But
okay,
I feel differently. Yeah.
So do you think
the same way I would feel differently if a midget rolled up on me versus like a 6'7"?
Hey, you're supposed to say little person, bro, or dwarf. I think those are both acceptable. Jesus Christ.
Dude rolled up on me. Is it fair? Maybe not, but I don't care because I'm not really threatened by a dude in a suit the same way I'm threatened by a dude.
Wait, but do you remember Street Bike Karen?
What?
What?
Do you remember that? Like, do you think that late? Do you remember the Street Bike Karen, the nurse who like had this controversy with the bike?
Yeah,
and she was pregnant.
I think that she free her. She was innocent. Honestly, she like the kid was holding on to the bike. He wasn't using it at the time. He was being a fucking hog. He was hogging a bike. You don't get to just do that. You don't get to. It's like you don't get to just hold on to things. They're not using it. They were just sitting there holding on to them, not going anywhere. And she's like, I want that bike. It was an automatic bike, and she's fucking pregnant. It was like it helped you scoot around or whatever, and he didn't want to give it up, but he also didn't want to leave, and he probably wasn't going to leave for quite a while after that until he got into the altercation. Yes, I agree with her 100%. That kid's an asshole. It's not a racially thing. I also don't think he's a bad person. He's a dumb kid. And the fact that social media weighed in on this and justified his actions by saying it was racist is just going to communicate to him that like everything is a racial problem and that he's a perpetual victim. So that's how I feel about that.
Pregnant?
No, I don't remember that.
Fuck. Okay.
Oh,
well,
the
it's not
city
gonna.
bike. Could she have shot and
Yeah,
killed
like
the guys at the?
Like should she like
Shot
could she have
and
taken out a
killed.
gun and killed like all 5 or 6 of those guys in that scenario?
That's way different. That's not the same thing. It's way different. They weren't even close to being threatening in any capacity. They were just like, I want the bike. They weren't fucking incoherent. That's not even the same to me.
Yeah, that would be crazy. That would just be crazy.
Sorry, I'm so confused. Where's it going?
It's just you don't know the example, but like it's just an example where like
there's a difference between two dudes like imposing onto you when you say stop and you're walking away, you're de-escalating, and they're following you. Because if she had done that and they kept aggressing onto her, then yes, maybe she could have shot them. But that's not what was happening, right? They were fighting over a fucking bike.
Yeah, okay, so essentially this woman
who got stabbed. What?
These kids were hanging out, I guess, and it was like a group of like I think it was like 5 or 6 like teenage black dudes.
Oh, why does it matter if they're black? Why even bring that up? What the fuck?
They were trying to
Is
check
that supposed
out
to make them sound scarier? Why even bring that up, dude? What the fuck?
One of these like city bikes,
and the lady wanted the bike, and
she wanted the bike, and they kind of surrounded her and like were yelling at her and whatnot, and she was kind of freaking out, and obviously she was feeling threatened. But like, I feel like under your scenario, she could have taken out a gun and killed like all 5 or 6 of those guys. Like, just
well, this guy didn't try to kill anybody. He shot the person once, so I don't think that it's fair to say that he was intentionally trying to kill somebody. And I don't think that's fair. But.
Wildly shooting, and that would have been justified self-defense. That just seems.
I think the argument here, though, for Abba is that like the disagreement was much more easily identifiable there, so it might not have been as justified, maybe.
Yeah, you knew what the disagreement was. They understood the situation that was going on. They understood the altercation, and none of those kids, those teenagers or whatever, none of them were physically aggressing onto her. They were just like, "I want the bike," and they were just like standing still. Basically, it's not even close to the same.
I mean, I haven't seen the video, so I don't know the parameters of why she would have felt threatened in that situation. But I don't know.
Also, are we not allowed to use? It must be the case. I would be shocked if in court, if you're trying to prove self-defense, if like the attire and the appearance of a potential threat isn't part of that analysis.
I'm not saying it wouldn't be relevant, but for Abba, it's dispositive.
When you say dispositive,
no, it's just one of the factors. You're trying to make it. So this is one of the problems I have with debating people. Is they'll try to take one aspect of an entire scenario and make it all about that one thing. It's relevant. Like, sure, bring it up, but now he's trying to make but it's only about the way he's dressed. Like, no, it's not. It's about a lot more than that, but it is a factor. It's just it's kind of a smaller factor.
Positive. Do you mean he's using that as the sole determining factor?
No, that it changes the answer. That
wait,
all I have
hold on.
to
Yeah, wait, but that's all threat analysis is to some extent dispositive. Like, it will change the answer. No.
So it's a factor that's big enough and significant enough in this case. That is to say, the conduct in this case by itself is not enough to push it over the edge. It's the conduct plus attire, right? So if I can think of a lot of things that a person in a suit could do where they would be justified deadly self-defense. But in this particular case...
Sure, but in generally speaking, if we're just looking at attire, somebody who's dressed in a suit is probably less likely to be aggressive than somebody who's dressed like a fucking bum like me right now. That's the art, and it's only one small factor. If the guy in the suit had a knife, we wouldn't be like, well, he had a suit. You would just be like, oh, that doesn't matter. That context doesn't matter. So
it's not enough. What I was saying is not enough. The conduct by itself. It's the conduct plus them being dressed in hoodies.
Everything.
Well, sure, but the conduct itself.
Where's this guy?
I don't know if I don't even think Abba would say that. It's probably the entire totality of the circumstances.
Yeah.
It's the fact that there's
if you take out one of those factors, if you substitute one factor, that is, you substitute hoodie for I don't know, was a collared shirt. What if they're in collared shirts?
I think it would be fair to look at...
It wouldn't change anything in this scenario. I don't think it would change anything. Fundamentally, it could, but in this scenario, if they were doing the exact same behaviors, yeah, I would say that it was still justifiable. I just think it's a factor as well in the determination process. What the fuck?
Them a lot differently if all 3 were wearing suits. I think that could be dispositive.
Okay, so all right, if it's dispositive there, Abercrombie and Fitch, they're all wearing preppy clothing.
Probably starts
and they deserve to get hit.
To feel a little bit different there, but
yeah. Well, hold on, Pisco. If they showed up in like bulletproof vests and like face masks, would I do I have the right to feel more?
Yeah, but those clothings are. I agree that clothing is a relevant consideration. But in this case, it sounds like there's no the conduct is going up to someone, showing them the phone, and not stopping when they say stop. That sounds
it's not just showing them the phone, but okay.
Like regular garden variety harassment. There's a lot of harassment that occurs on a daily basis, and what your rule would allow is for each one of those considerations, each one of those moments, to be a potential deadly threat where deadly force is justified. How many times does something like that in your daily life occur where you see it happen? It happens in New York.
I mean, how many times in your daily life are you harassed by pranking YouTubers? Probably not that often. So that does the daily life. This isn't really a particularly normal situation. I don't know what you're talking about.
All the time.
Like most of the time I would argue when people are fighting with each other, they're both it's generally somewhat mutual when they're aggressing onto each other because there was a disagreement. This isn't one of those situations where things started at a place and started to escalate. This is a situation where this guy's just getting fucking harassed out of nowhere. So, yeah.
And you want to convert all those situations into potential deadly self-defense moments, even though the vast majority of them don't ever result in a danger.
I mean, I don't know how often those kinds of things happen that you're describing. I don't know how often people are being surrounded by 2 people and then having their personal space infringed upon and then repeatedly saying, no, get away from me, while the people are advancing. I don't know how often that really happens with no violence following, but I could assure you that for most people, if that happened, a lot of them would turn to violence.
Okay, so then what I'm telling you is that...
And Destiny's just chilling there, making fucking money, baby. You know what I'm saying? I gotta pee, though.
Situations of harassment, especially among people who are well known to each other, acquaintances, people who are in the same apartment building where they go up to each other and they shout over things that are known. Situations where you're in someone's face. My proposition is that occurs with commonality in the
My proposition is I gotta piss. I'll be right back. Pee time's over. Let's get this going.
West and in the United States.
Yeah, and they turn into fights most of the time, or they turn into physical violence very commonly. I'm not gonna say most of the time because I can't prove it, but they oftentimes turn into physical violence. Very You can't get that close to somebody while they tell you back off, and then someone starts swinging. That happens all the time.
A lot of the time they don't. And here,
I would actually say as somebody that's spent.
But in that situation, again, well, I'm sorry, I think the context, and I could be wrong. Sorry, I could just rewind it, but I guess hold on.
United States.
Yeah, and
my proposition is that occurs with commonality.
violence.
No, again, like there's no I guess you say buy-in for both parties though. It's the one party is aggressing, the other party is disconnecting, and there's literally no justifier for it. It's not like the one guy fucking stepped on his new Jordans or something. I don't know. That's not a justifier, but that's a joke. But my point is, it's not like there's no justifier. It's just like I'm gonna harass this guy for no reason whatsoever, and that's part of it too. I feel like that's probably another thing you could take as well. This is completely uncalled for. There's no reason for this situation to be happening. The other guy is just fucking confused. It's not like it started with like road rage and it started to escalate. The guy's fucking. I'd be confused as shit. Like, what the fuck are you doing? I would know it's a YouTube prankster, but it's just like
somebody while they tell you back off, and then someone starts swinging. That happens all the time.
A lot of the time they don't. And here,
I would actually say, as somebody that spent some time in cities, and I could be wrong, but I would say that the vast majority of the times they don't turn out into fights. Like, there are fights that happen, and fights can be quote unquote common because they're big cities. But most of the time when people are shouting at each other, they shout at each other. It's uncomfortable. People might like look, but then people generally just like fuck off. Like, I wouldn't say that like even 10% of those turn into actual fistfights. Most of the time people just fuck off and walk away.
Have you seen
I would say this. I think it just depends on what kind of neighborhood you're around. I can assure you that in a lot of places that I've visited, you can never do that and not expect to get punched or shot. You just can't do that. You just can't approach somebody, get up in their face, they tell you back up, and you keep it.
I'll tell you, if that's where you're from, which is similar to where I'm from, that's why you see fewer people punching people. It's true. Well, that's the problem, right? That's the fundamental problem with these YouTube pranksters is nobody hit them when they were young. I'm not even trying to like, be funny, but if you did approach me, or if people in my community approached each other the way that YouTube pranksters approach people on the street, where they're just like obnoxious and harassing people, like you're probably going to get hit. Is it right? I don't know if it's right. Should it be legal? No, of course not. And not in every scenario, but like it's one of those things where there's certain things that you will do in your life and people are going to be mad at you and they might hit you. You know, it's the same thing. People got really mad at me. I had one take where it's like, if you say a slur to a person that belongs to the particular group that slur is targeted towards and they hit you legally, should they get arrested? Probably. But I'm not sitting here defending you, you fucking moron. You're literally asking for it at that point. So like, yeah, okay.
They're not going to wait for you to do something.
I understand what you're saying, but like, unfortunately, like you're completely wrong. Like, there are so many firearms in the United States. If what you were saying was true, we would see like 20,000 shootings like every single day in the U.S. If every time two people got in each other's face, there was a shooting. Like, it would be a cascade of mass shootings every single day. There are over 300 million firearms in the U.S. Like, it would just be insane. No.
Maybe I'll label this video like that's like Abbott destroys Destiny in 2-on-1 confrontation. Even though I don't know that's what's happening, but
don't think what you guys are describing happens often in the kinds of places.
It does, bro. You know the amount of road rage, the amount of people being angry at each other. If you go to any like,
yeah, and again, road rage is different. If somebody cuts you off and then like you decide to pull over, because the person, so in a road rage scenario, somebody cuts you off, you're the one that's going to stop and probably go and aggress onto that person. Or you might slam on your horn and it won't stop until that person gets out. And then like now you've kind of both mutually engaged in a confrontation. That person wronged you, but you know, you could just move on and not give it and just like move on with your day, but you decide not to because you have like usually an ego problem. That's most road rage situations. They're not necessarily massively dangerous. It's just kind of like a shitty situation that happened, right? In that scenario, you both know what you're buying into. Right? In the scenario where some dude just walks up on you with a phone, waving a phone in your face, and they're just not saying anything, and they won't stop when you say, stop, leave me alone. Different scenario. And in the road rage situation, if there was an instance of road rage, and one of the guys like started physically aggressing onto you, and you started trying to walk away and be like, okay, I'm done with this, and they kept going, you can shoot them. Yes. Okay. There's a lot of factors.
Political rally, if you're of the other side, that people are yelling at you, coming in your face. Really, in this political climate, that's all the time. In protests, to say nothing, even left-wing protests, often left-wing protests, I have to say.
I don't take protests the same. I feel like that's a different context. I would not compare that.
Okay, well, okay, so then if you're going to make a...
That's like telling me, like, oh, a fight press conference.
The thing is, I'm going to create a bunch of categories, and you're gonna discount them and make them the category they own. So now I'm going to talk to you about bars and people getting up in your face in bars.
Okay, what about
that? Happens a lot, doesn't it?
Sure, yeah.
I guess, might.
You think that, someone comes up to you, hey, that's my seat, bro. Or like, and you're surprised or something.
Just the fact that the person came up to you and said, hey, that's my seat, indicates what is going on. The air of confusion is instantly dissipated. That's not the same as this situation. Take into account that this guy is just acting like a fucking weirdo, and you never know somebody's mental state. I would genuinely consider myself a disabilities advocate when it comes to this shit online. Every time somebody says the R slur, I get uncomfortable. I make sure I let you know, like, I think it's wrong. It's an ableist slur, etc. That being said, if you're walking around on the street and some guy starts walking at you and they're acting what would be like different from the way people normally act, and you don't know if they have a mental issue, I would understand why you would be threatened, because that person isn't necessarily acting in the same way that most people would interact, and so you don't know what the fuck they're doing. So if some fucking weird ass guy's walking at you with a phone that says like "lick my asshole" or whatever dumb bullshit it said on there, and he won't stop when you keep saying stop, yeah, I see why you would feel threatened enough. It's not like the hottest steak in the world.
In the same kind of context where people yell at you at a bar.
Yeah, and those turns into fights all the time.
Okay, I mean, so your rule would generate more deadly self-defense and more shootings.
To be clear, what I'm saying is if you did initiate a situation and someone starts invading in your space, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that you have a real valid claim to self-defense. If bars or place like that, oftentimes that's two people engaging in something. You lose the right to self-defense when you contribute to the situation. Right?
Yeah,
when it's one person encroaching on another person's space and continues to do so after repeated warnings, you have a right to self-defense.
Deadly self-defense should only be used if there's a reasonable fear of imminent serious bodily injury or death. That's our rule. We leave it only for the most, because remember, this is a rule that allows you to summarily, without any due process, end someone's life. And so we only reserve it for them.
It's not if there's, it doesn't have to do with the actual threat, right? It has to do with the perception of the threat.
Reasonable fear, yeah.
Yeah, so that's,
it's whether the fear is reasonable.
I think that the argument here is the fear reasonable the entire time? So half this conversation is like irrelevant.
I don't disagree, Abba, with the argument that you're making. I feel like we're drawing the line at a different place, or we just might, like I said, if it happened at a different place, if it wasn't in the middle of a law, if these guys had made a specific threat, if they'd actually touched him, I think I would probably lean towards his side. But god damn, dude, 15 seconds to just like whip out a Glock and shoot somebody over a couple guys in your face with a cell phone. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but
I'm not far off from you. Initially, when I saw it, I thought, like, listen, if you pulled out the strap, you could at least tone them back up after that. But someone else told me, like, if you pull it out, you got to use it. You can't pull it out because I think I don't know if this is actually accurate. You guys can tell me. Apparently, if you just pull out your firearm and you don't, you can get charged with brandishing a firearm.
Yeah, so that's true. But if you pull out your firearm and shoot somebody, you can get charged with attempted murder. So yeah, brandishing a firearm is technically quote unquote illegal. But I'm sure there must be some affirmative defensive purpose to brandish.
I think more than anything else, your better argument in this case is that he was so close. If he just pulled the firearm out, he could have been disarmed, and they could have made it worse for him. So.
You can do it for killing somebody or shooting somebody. You can definitely do it for brandishing a firearm.
But isn't that crazy? You can't even use it to like de-escalate a situation, right?
Which can.
Well, hold on. Whoa. It's not crazy at all that you don't want people brandishing firearms in public. But you could do it, but it would just be another type of affirmative defense. Where you'd say, yeah, I did this thing you're not normally supposed to do, but I had a good reason for it, if they decided to charge you with it, right?
Okay.
Sure, yeah. But, I mean, I feel like if the jury let him off for shooting the guy, then the jury probably would have let him off for that, too. So.
I just want to go after Steven for a second. You are so hypocritical.
Oh, are you actually doing this?
Yeah, I'm 100% doing this. You're over here sounding
dude, this guy's ready to make a name for himself. He's ready to get a name for himself going after Destiny, dude. Let's hear it.
Oh, Pisco ate so many of this is Destiny's world pills, and he thinks I'm on the unironic infinite self-defense train. Okay,
listen,
go ahead, Pisco.
How can you stand here, or sit here, I don't know if you're sitting. Oh, that's a cute little animal you got back there. How can you sit there and be all reasonable about, well, is 15 seconds enough? But then, like, if you know someone's taking a candy bar or your blade of grass, you can fire away. It's just so inconsistent.
What?
I think because it all...
Did he make an argument about somebody taking... What is he talking about?
Has to do, I think, with like a reasonable expectation of punishment for actions, or like what is we've talked about this, like putting a person on notice or whatever for things that are going on, right? Like if a sign clearly says shoplifters will be shot, and you walk in...
He said stop. Well, no, sorry.
He didn't say stop, I had a gun. Hold on, whoa, just to be clear. If the guy was like, stop, I had a gun, and those guys didn't back off immediately, at that point, fucking Rambo. AK-47, 30 round extended mags, 60, 80 round mags, and both, I'd be fully for it, okay? But just to be clear.
Oh my God.
I hear you, but before I thought that you were saying that stores, whether or not they have signs that say we're going to shoot you, they could, as Trump said, shoot the motherfuckers if they steal.
I feel like when we had this conversation last time, I feel like we both agreed that there's probably some reasonable notice that a person needs to have to know that they're going to be shot. So like a sign saying shoplifters will be shot, we could argue is a type of reasonable notice a person could be put on, right?
Okay, but if you don't have that sign is necessary, is what you're saying.
Unless it's like a societal construct that people are known to be shot and killed when shoplifting or something, sure. That would be like one example of it. Or like if the guy is shooting, if the guy's looking at you in a store and he's saying, hey, if you take that candy, I'm looking right at you, I'm going to shoot and kill you, then Hey, go for it.
Wait, but Dusty, what if you have like, okay, what about in a scenario where, I don't know, like you're some rural person and they send like a Census Bureau representative to get you to go fill out your census, but you have a fence and you have a sign that says, trespassers will be shot, but obviously you're a Census Bureau person, you go to their door, can that person just like shoot and kill the fucking Census Bureau
worker?
worker?
Way different because you're involving like the entire system of government you're in. There's probably some necessary consent to living under government's rules. I don't do sovereign citizen shit. Like if you want to do that, you can, but then at that point you're just going.
Yeah, and then also you're wearing a suit, so it justifies you not getting shot.
Going to war with like your fucking neighbors if they steal electricity from you or something. Like,
no, it's like no, it's not that. It's like you have a sign that says trespassers will be shot, and then this person trespasses onto your property.
He's not.
Like,
he's not. He's a representative of the state, and the state probably has.
No, but you don't know that. You don't know that.
Yes, you do. He's wearing a suit. He's wearing a suit and he's holding a clipboard, so you can make the reasonable assumption that he's there for that. So different. Now, if the guy just walked up with a phone in his hand and a backwards hat, different scenario. Then again, I mean, also, I imagine if it's legal to shoot trespassers in your state, you'd hopefully know that as somebody engaging in that state, and so you would be less likely to trespass, right?
He's 100 yards away. You shoot him from a distance or whatever.
If you don't know that, I mean, there's probably going to be some expectation for the property owner to be aware of like like for instance, I'm sure that there's probably are these called easements where you have agreements with other people for shared access to property? Like if the cable guy was coming because the neighbor's cable was out and he wants to inspect the tap on your backyard, like I'm sure they provide you notice. If you missed the letter in the mail and he's there, you can't just like assassinate people coming into your yard because you weren't aware that they had like authorization to be there. That would be, or rather you could shoot them, but then you would face first degree premeditated murder because you should have been aware of like your responsibility as property owner who's on your property. Like,
wait, but then why? Wait, what? Then how can you kill somebody for stealing a blade of grass from your lawn just because they have notice?
No,
it's not. Hold on, wait.
Yeah,
Hold on.
yeah,
Stop. Turn your brain on. My position might be stupid, but that's coherent. There's a difference between a person is on notice and does something bad that they're told if you do this you will die, versus another person thinks they're fully within their right to be on your property and go and work there, and then they do it and then you kill them anyway. Even if you can say it's a dumb position, but it's not incoherent. It's incredibly consistent.
I said.
Is this a debate? The position of like, even if you take a blade of grass from me, kind of a thing? Is that what I'm missing the context of?
I said it was stupid.
No, but you agreed with him that the position was stupid, but he wasn't saying it was stupid. He was saying it was incoherent. Those are two.
Well, I don't know.
But
I can comprehend it, so it's coherent. But I think it's stupid.
I feel like the issue is that
follows a logical set of rules that lead us from one set of axioms to a set of rules. That's all logically.
It's coherent.
I disagree with those rules.
But Destiny, the issue is that obviously, okay, so the issue I feel like is a bit of a contradiction because if you give somebody, what do you call it? If you give somebody notice, right? That notice you mentioned can be in the form of a sign, right? That says, trespassers will be shot or shoplifters will be shot or something like that. And if you're saying, okay, well, no, but you can't just assume the person on your property doesn't have the right to be there. Well, you're basically saying that you have to do notice and then a little bit something else, right? Because you're putting the onus on the person that's given the notice.
We've gotten so far away from the actual conversation. It's fucking wild.
No, well, the onus is on. Hold on.
Analyze the situation.
No. The onus is on both parties to make sure they're following these agreements to their best understanding. For instance, if cable guys are coming to work on your property, they normally try to contact you first. Like, especially in rural areas, a guy is not just going to walk into your property and start working.
Also, a cable guy shows up with a truck. It's called a cable truck, and you probably, if your cable guys come to your house, most likely, and this is really a tough take to make. Most of the time, you know what your cable provider is, because if you're paying them to do cable for you. So, like, let's say you have Verizon, and a guy shows up in a truck with a big red V on it that says Verizon. I'm thinking that guy might be from Verizon, and he might be there in relationship to my Verizon membership subscription. So I'm thinking that guy might be here for me. And also, I probably called him as well. I probably also called the guy, right? So I feel like these are very terminally online conversations. It's so stupid.
Working on shit without notifying you first.
Okay.
At least from where I'm from, that's a de facto rule. I'm pretty sure, and maybe people just talk shit for the farms that I've been on, but like if you're wandering around in people's like farms and shit, like either near the animals or in the fields or whatever, you fully expect that you could get shot if somebody catches you. So
you sound like a ANCAP. Can I just say, like, could you make a sign?
This is what they told me where in the place that I hung out. They said, be careful where you go. Don't wander on a neighbor's property because if you walk into the wrong spot, they could kill you if they see you around their property. At least in the farm areas where I was at when I did fucking my horseback shit when I was a kid, okay? That's what they told me, okay? Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that when people go onto your property, they generally make a good faith effort to notify you of who they are. They look a certain way, and they try to
what does that mean?
what's going on. You don't have to sneak into the property.
If somebody's on your land and they're wearing a suit, would you shoot them?
Yes, of course. Only if they were in a suit. If anybody was on my land, I would just say, get out of here, sir. Get the frick out of here. Yeah, now you guys know why I don't want to debate or the orbit destiny. Some of these fucking things are so crazy. Like Abbott Destiny's conversation makes sense. Now we're just getting into a weird area.
Versus like if they were
Well,
wearing
that depends on if they've got the Project
Do you
Veritas
have the
camera with them
right
or not.
to? Wait. No, the question is always not would you do it. It's do you have the right to? Is it reasonable to? And it sounds like Steven's saying that people for themselves can make their own signs and whatever standard they want. So you could have a sign on your chest that says if you touch me at all, I get to shoot you, and you'd be like, that's reasonable.
Well, no, it would be reasonable if that like state allowed that to be permissible. So, if it was like an open carrier type of state or whatever type of state that was it was acceptable to use a gun to defend yourself, like as a business owner, like violators will be shot, then yes, it's appropriate. If you live in a state where that's not the law, then it's not appropriate. And generally speaking, if it's something that's appropriate in a state, you should be, ignorance of the law isn't like a justifier for breaking it. If you are aware of, if you would live in the state where it's justifiable for this type of behavior to happen, where you can get shot, like you should know better. Don't be stupid.
Hey, listen, if the sign is clearly red from the vision...
No, come on. Really?
Listen, this is my perspective. I understand you disagree, but the world we live in now, listen, there needs to be way less fucking around and when we're finding out. If you're that retarded, if you're that
Stop using that bad word.
If a guy's saying, don't touch me, I'm gonna shoot you, don't touch me, I'm gonna shoot you, and then you touch him, maybe you need to get shot once or twice to figure out what's going on.
True.
You do not believe this.
Yeah.
Destiny, don't you think that's somewhat like chilling to just sort of like your regular, ordinary living circumstance to some degree? Because like I can imagine this.
No, I don't understand what the problem is. If you touch me, I'm going to shoot you. Sounds okay. I'm not. Check this out. I'm not going to touch you, brother. I feel like, yeah, I'm not going to touch you, man, because I don't want to get shot. It's kind of like a 1-to-1. It's like math. 1 + 1 = 2. You know what I'm saying?
Scenario where like a police force, for instance, adopts the idea that, hey, look, if you protest and we perceive it as violent, we're going to hold up a red sign. And if that red sign is up, that means if you're not inside your house in the next 20 minutes, we're going to kill you.
What?
Right, so that I think that might be a little different from if we're two citizens and we're not police officers, and if you hit me or I will shoot you, and I'll say if you touch me, I'll shoot you. It's probably a little different than violating somebody's constitutional right to protest. That's an authoritarian state in that situation. The other situation is just don't touch me. I'm a person and I want to maintain my agency. If anything, that's fair. I mean, that's a conversation about consent. Honestly, I don't consent to you touching me. I will shoot you if you do. That's a consent conversation. If anything, if people knew that more, then maybe we'd have better conversations about consent, and maybe we'd see better outcomes in society. So.
Murder you.
How do we get from how do we get from personal defense of bodily autonomy to outlawing First Amendment rights to protest?
Because I'm saying that that's an example where that kind of logic could be chilling to...
No.
Yeah, it could be chilling if you're a fucking idiot. What is he talking about? You can't take it that far.
Logic
Sort of
doesn't carry over at all, because one is like...
Guys, my debate tactic is to make hyperbole on every comparison and think that it's always justifiable. That's my debate tactic. That's why I hate debate. Like, I understand using a little bit of flair and going to like sometimes a more extreme position, but this one isn't an extreme position. You have to change the parameters of the, like, usually when you do extreme positions in like a debate sense, you're maintaining everything. The one thing you're changing is the proportionality of what's happening. In this case, you have to change the proportionality. You have to change the people that are doing it, because it's a police officer instead of a person, an active duty police officer. And you have to change the laws to make that an oppressive state. So there's too many, it's like a scientific experiment. Generally, when you do these hyperbolic, changes, it's like one thing. It's just the intensity of the situation, not every single thing that surrounds it. But maybe I'm wrong.
The state. Well, hold on. If you want to,
they're putting you on notice.
If you want to stretch that logic really, really hard, I mean, we kind of already do that to some extent. There are states and cities that will say, "Hey, curfew, 10 o'clock," and then the police come out and they beat your ass. So that already happens to some extent. I don't even know.
Right, but that's fucked up, right?
Is it?
You know, I feel like kind of.
I don't think that's up. I think that if if protests are getting violent, if severe property damage is happening or is imminent, and the cops want to say, "Listen, do your protest and shit, but past 10 o'clock, get the off the streets," I think that's totally fair. I don't think you need to.
What if they said past 10 o'clock protesters will be shot, and then protesters were out past 10, and then they...
I would say that they probably wouldn't do that. They would probably arrest them, because that's a disproportionate amount. It's disproportionate, and the police are held to a higher standard. So.
Shot them.
I mean, there's probably, because you have police officers, there's probably a more reasonable escalatory pathway to violence there, but that's because we entrust police officers with a monopoly on violence, so we hope that they conduct themselves in a much higher way. So, for instance, in this exact same circumstance that we just saw, if that police officer, if the delivery driver was a cop, I would have a higher burden on him to act better than to just instantaneously shoot a guy. Like, I would be expecting him...
Even an off-duty cop, I would, honestly.
...to take a more proper de-escalatory pathway. But I wouldn't put that same onus on a citizen.
fuck does onus mean?
Wild.
How do you guys feel about Destiny's find out take? You guys
Well,
okay
this
with
one-
it?
It's a duty or responsibility. I got a duty because I'm a poop boy.
Pisco always has hated me on this
no.
case.
Yeah, no, like because Steven will jump around, but obviously
Oh
it doesn't
my
make
God.
sense. It doesn't make sense to allow citizens for themselves to define the scope of the deadly self-defense right. And if everything reduces down to reasonable notice, then it sounds like people could have their
Well,
own
that's not. We've gotten off topic. So
kind
Wait,
of.
hold on. What did you
esoteric-
just say? It does. Can't citizens already define the scope of their deadly self-defense right?
No. You couldn't say something like put a sign on your chest that says, "If you touch me, I will shoot you." That wouldn't be allowed.
No, sure, yeah, that would probably be extreme. I don't know if I would
Yeah.
actually go for that.
no, but usually, again, like we're missing the factor that the state will generally has to back these things up. So if somebody puts up a sign that says, "I'm going to shoot you if you trespass." If that's not legal in your state, the sign doesn't matter. But if it is legal in your state, as a fair warning. I mean, that's part of the whole conversation, no?
Law, but I'm pretty sure you can shoot somebody for being on your property.
Oh, he's a lawyer guy in New York. Ah, he's a pussy. New York lawyers are pussies.
So if you in certain states you can.
Yes,
I think
okay.
Texas is the most liberal in that sense, in the sense of letting you have that freedom. But I think it has to be at night, and that has to do with the nexus between what people might do on your property at night and the nexus with a reasonable fear of your life or a serious bodily injury. I agree. Oftentimes at burglary, you have a right to deadly self-defense in those cases because you don't know exactly what the threat is going to be if someone's burglarizing.
Yes.
But again, it has to do with the nexus of serious bodily injury or
Sure,
life.
you can use that word nexus to serious bodily injury all you want, but I'm pretty sure in Texas, like, I think you can, like, shoot somebody in your backyard. Like, way before any bodily threat is incurred or even threatened, or you could have time to call the police, or you could do warning shots or whatever. Like,
just be aware, Stephen, you're referencing the most liberal, I'm using liberal because it's the right? So the most liberal self-defense rights in the entire country. And even there, my understanding is that it has to be at night when there is absolutely no fear for reasonable life or bodily injury. That's my understanding of Texas law.
Sure.
But the majority rule in most states is it has to be fear for your life or serious bodily injury or some other qualifying crime like rape or deadly assault or robbery or something like that. But there's a clear nexus, right? But in those instances where there is no such nexus, I just think it's escalate it like you would. And in this particular case where if you have a gun, I don't have a problem with him saying, "Hey, I have a gun, step off." Alba, why wouldn't you make that person do that before they shoot?
If you
Because he was so close, and if he announced, the argument would be that they were so close that if he announced, "I have a gun, step off," and under his assertion that this guy's fucking crazy and not acting normal, and you don't understand his intentions, that if you announce that you have a gun, that might cause the other guy to aggress onto you and hurt you. That would be the argument.
really feel like this person's going to attack you, which this person had valid reasons to think, then you announcing that may give them the drop to use whatever weapon they have. So that would be one of the reasons why you wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why people say don't pull out your gun, just tell them you're going to shoot, and they tell you to just use it at that moment, because you should already be at a point where you really think that this person's going to attack you.
Okay, then that's true of almost any. Then it sounds like self-defense just collapses to deadly self-defense in every situation. Because what you're describing is any time where you're reducing the potential effectiveness of your self-defense by not using a gun, you shouldn't be forced to incur that risk, and so therefore a gun is justified because.
Wait, hold on, Pisco, you believe that, right?
I believe that. 100%.
No, I don't.
No, Pisco, you believe that, right? Or are you telling
No,
me
I
that
don't.
if a 75-year-old grandma is approached by a 25-year-old big-ass thuggin' hardcore dude, that she has
Whoa,
to take
thuggin'.
escalatory paths of...
No.
Okay,
I'm
so
not
in that
saying-
case...
Well, in that case, he would just argue that grandma has no other alternative than to shoot, because she literally couldn't defend herself from somebody else. But in this case, you could argue that, again, people shouldn't have to risk their own agency or their own autonomy because somebody else wants to aggress on them in that way.
And can you tell me, in that case,
Well, I
does her
just wanna be
self-defense always collapse to deadly self-defense then?
As to physical, yes, I think you take the victim as you see them. So if there's a physical assault that's coming upon like a cancer
Whoa! But what if she was wearing a suit? What the fuck?
patient or something, then yeah, that you take the victim.
It's interesting because he was like shitting on the suit argument before, but it's like somebody's like visual is a factor, right? So if somebody's fucking an old woman, right, would that be a factor? Although I guess it's different from a suit. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm being stupid.
So then,
See,
okay, hold on.
that's
You
not
try
what
to
I'm
make
saying.
you try to make Abba sound crazy for that, but that was exactly what Abba said, and you agree with him 100%.
No. Abba is saying that regardless of the threat to your life.
No,
Or this is
no,
what I understand.
no.
That's not what he's saying. He's saying that the perceived threat. He's saying that there was a perceived threat to this person, and so he shouldn't have to lose any of his autonomy in order to defend himself. So he's allowed to be what you would consider disproportionate in that situation. What the fuck are you talking about?
No, that is not what Abba is saying.
That's not what we
Watch,
talk. You're not
hold
letting me
on.
talk.
I can
You're not letting me talk. You don't even know what I'm saying.
hold on. No. I'm gonna ask Abba one quick question, because this whole line of training you're about to go down is Abba. If those guys were 20 yards away from them, Do you think the guy could have said, "Hey, I've got a gun, get back," or do you think he would still be able to pull it out and snipe them from
Yeah, no, if he was 20 yards away, I don't think he'd be justifiable at all.
20 yards away?
I think you wouldn't be justified in doing that, honestly.
Okay,
Wait,
there, so
I'm going to ask a clarifying question. Abba, can you identify any situation or example in which using force but not deadly force would be justified?
This question doesn't matter. I'm going to listen to it again, and I'm going to answer it.
Example in which I'm going to ask a clarifying question. Abba, can you identify any situation or example in which using force but not deadly force would be justified?
This one, it doesn't matter. You could argue, yeah, this one would be, you're saying justified for the victim. So it would have been justified if this guy just gave him a fucking, like an uppercut punch too. But he's also justified in the way that he interacted. So I don't think this question matters, right? Like, am I stupid?
Using force, but not deadly force.
Yeah.
Like, if the guy used force and not deadly force in this situation, he would have been completely justifiable. But he's also justifiable in using deadly force. Am I misinterpreting the question?
No, I don't think so. No.
Wait, hold on, stop, hold on. Abba just DM'd me what he was going to say.
Hold on. But go on. Just follow on the train of thought.
No, because you don't even believe that. Hold on. Abba, if I walked up to you and I said I was going to beat your ass, do you think that your immediate response to shoot me and kill me would be okay?
No.
No, why? Because you're slightly
Well, I would say it's because you're just threatening to do it and you haven't engaged in it yet. I don't know.
taller than me.
Why? Why should you have to risk yourself? Wait. Abba, he could get the drop on you.
It depends. It depends on the context. Is he right up
Well, he didn't get the drop on him. He walked up and said, "I'm going to fight you." But okay.
my face and making that threat? Is he at a distance? Like, obviously, I'm
20 feet away.
And he's advancing on me?
Yeah.
And I'm telling him, don't come forward. He's still doing it? Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, you can shoot somebody. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, if somebody's like, "I'm going to beat your ass," and they're walking, say, "Don't do it. Don't come towards me," and they keep going. Yeah, you can shoot him. Why not?
Bless.
No, Abba, no! Abba, what are you doing?
Why?
Jesus Christ.
Hold on, Steven. I don't even think what I just said is crazy. If you
Wait, am I misinterpreting it? Like, if the person is saying that they're gonna I'm gonna beat the shit out of you right now, and they're walking towards you and say, "Don't walk towards me, or I'll shoot you." How is that not justifiable?
a threat on me in terms of violence, and you are approaching me. I've told you to step back, and you keep approaching me. Yeah, what do you mean? Why should I wait for you to get in range? That's crazy.
That's what I was talking about, Steven.
Oh my god! What if it was like a 12-year-old boy or something doing the same thing? Like,
Well, thank God it's not a 12-year-old boy.
would you just blow him away?
Obviously, if it's a kid, it's going to be different. But I don't even see what
Yeah, exactly.
Wait. Hey, no. It's not going to be different, Abba, because, kids can kill you. Kids can kill you.
Yeah, kid can get a knife in a lot of areas, Abba.
Oh, then I guess I'm shooting the fuck out of that kid, huh? How big's the kid? When I was 15, I was 6'4". So how big is this kid?
15-year-old, 16-year-old. Why does it matter if they're coming over to push you?
Listen,
why should
Pat
you have to
Williams got
subject
his ass beat
yourself?
by a high schooler, right?
because any reason.
I mean, that's a fair argument. That's fair. I mean, if it was a 15-year-old and a 60-year-old, do you think the 15-year-old has a right to the 60-year-old has a right to shoot, or the 80-year-old, right? Listen, not for nothing, but 15-year-olds are fucking big, especially 15-year-old boys. I don't know why we're pretending that 15-year-old boys aren't like the size of fucking adults, because they are. I was 6'4" when I was 15. I'm not even kidding. Maybe 6'2". I was a fucking big kid. So yeah, I think you would have every right to shoot me if I was aggressing towards you and you were like 30, because I'll fuck you up.
Hold up. You guys, maybe it's because you guys live in debate land, so you just sound like retards. I'm obviously going to treat a 12-year-old or a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old. Hold up. Or an old lady in her 80s. Hold up. I'm obviously going to treat them differently in terms of how much.
Steven? Why don't you treat Steven differently?
What do you mean?
You're going to treat an old lady and a kid differently than Steven?
Are you trying to say Steven is just so dainty he can't be a threat?
No, I'm saying that between you two, I thought you guys are very strong, right? Abba and Preach, you guys are like fitness people.
Not really, but sure.
This is Steven's example.
I don't think Abba lifts or anything.
Not at all.
I thought you guys lifted.
Hold on, Abba. The broad point was...
No, stop. This is stupid. The moment you're a grown-ass man capable of using weapons, I don't care whether or not you're Steven's height, I don't care if you're 6 foot. Like, obviously, those are going to be, from a legal standpoint, going to factor in. But if you're making a threat on my life and advancing, you could be 5'6" or 6'5". I'm gonna probably...
What if you're like a 4'5" little person?
Yeah, sure. 4 foot 5.
But you probably just outrun them. You just outwalk them at that point, right? They're not going to be able to move too fast. I don't give a fuck.
What if you're like a 28-year-old 4'5" little person?
If you're a dwarf, I'm gonna like.
I like how it's like, yeah, but what if you were this thing that's probably not what the normal scenario calls for? Oh yeah, true, good point. I never thought about that.
Give you 2 more chances to stop. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, exactly. That's kind of the point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't even know why you guys are going like, oh god. I'm like, everyone thinks this way.
No.
Well, yeah.
No, he's right. Most people think this way. Like, this is like if you're walking, like if it's legally not okay, like that's fine. But if you're coming at me and you're like, I'm gonna hurt you, and I'm like, stop, or I'm gonna like just stop. I'm like, I'm gonna fuck. If I had a gun, I'm gonna shoot you instead. Like, Yeah, I'm not putting it. I'm 6'4". I'm fucking 350 pounds. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if a 5 foot tall person's running at me. Maybe he's a fucking a professional fighter. Maybe he's concealing a knife. Why the fuck are they coming at me in the first place? I don't care if you want to be like, well, moral illegally. It's like, fuck you. I don't care. I don't care. Like I'll go to jail then because I'd rather not die. I don't know what this fucking crazy person, unless he has a suit on, then it's different. So
hold up, even you, whether you recognize or not, you are having subconscious biases in regards to who you see as a threat, whether you're consciously aware
Yeah,
of
of
it.
You're
course.
right, but you are right,
100%.
but people are also generally
course.
making, they're doing these like calculations in their head for how threatening somebody is. If a guy walks up to you and he's 5'2" and he's shouting at you, you're not going to treat that guy the same way.
that's not the same thing. Somebody shouting at you is different from shouting at you, I'm going to come and hit you. Those are totally different things.
As if like a 6'5" or 6'7" NBA player is walking up to you threatening you, right? It's going to be different, right?
Okay.
Yes, mentally it's going to be different, but my point is if you're approaching me in a threatening manner and you're an adult man, whether you're going to be 6'5" or...
I mean, the context here is that like they're just approaching you for no reason. If you guys have an altercation and then that happens, I feel like it's a little bit different, no? There's so many different factors in these. These are such vague general statements.
You're going to meet that threshold of a deadly threat if you're making a threat and advancing like that.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
also...
There's no situation in which regular force would be justified where deadly force wouldn't.
Wow.
That's my point.
And that was an amazing take. I love you all, but I have to leave. I can't be straight
Oh,
up.
God.
Hey, I'm with that, but dude, fuck it.
What? It's
You're running
fucking...
away, bro.
What?
You're running away from your hypocrisy.
It's too... I've got it. I'm traveling, okay? I'm doing things. I'll be home tomorrow night, okay? We can...
Hey, congratulations on the bridge building with Vosh.
Wow, I was going to talk about it tonight, but you guys derailed it all, so...
Oh.
Damn.
Yeah, well,
I'll
your whole Reddit wants to know, are you guys making friends now? Is that a thing?
I don't know. I have to think about... I don't know. The
do it.
biggest thing that, honest to God, the biggest thing that is influencing my decision right now is looking at the different communities' reactions to the conversation. Makes me just want to say no, unless somebody in the communities does something to address it, because my whole subreddit was like, bridge building, Vosh so handsome, he speaks okay, like look at these jokes.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that were like, Vosh just looked so handsome, I would have fucked him if he would just not talk. And I was like, okay, that's funny. That was people in my comments, it was funny.
Blah, 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 blah. Vosh's whole subreddit was like, why is Destiny a contrarian, fascist, transphobe fuck who is like just being contrarian and liberal the entire... It's like, bro, really? I don't know. But, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to be like, Vosh should set a boundary and to talk to your community, because the reality is that like Destiny's pretty... He's a pretty guy. He's much higher on the like he's pretty on the nose right now. I mean, he's pretty big. He's even bigger than really before. I mean, I remember 2 years ago when I first started big content, he was at like 300K. Now he's at like 700K. He's pretty relevant. He's having a conversation with Ben Shapiro in November, my understanding, around Thanksgiving time, with like Lex Friedman is the mediator in some capacity, right? I mean, so if Vosh wants to, it's kind of on. If the ball's kind of in Vosh's court if he wants to build that bridge.
But communities aside, how did you feel about it?
Honest question: what percentage of these debates are actually beneficial to public discourse? None. There's really none of them are beneficial to public discourse. 0% of them are beneficial. At least the ones like this one specifically. There's nothing of value from debating this other than entertainment, and I feel satisfied in the entertainment value that I've received. So.
Community side, Kevels came up and she basically like fully apologized for almost everything. I don't want to throw Kevels on the bus or anything, but like, I mean, I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know. Kevels seems chill. I'm willing to give him another chance. You know, who knows? Her and the
what?
NB person guy. I don't know if he goes by guy or girl or what the fuck their pronouns are. I think Vosh basically just pretended that like nothing happened and wanted to continue to pretend that nothing happened, which ordinarily would be okay if it wasn't that like his roommate and his entire community tried to get my entire career killed like 5 different times.
Oh shit, really? That's wild.
Okay, well, I'm glad at least the careful stuff.
Well, I mean, if that's true, then at that point you're a fucking moron if you decide to engage with Vosh again. Only because if it's that bad where he's trying to destroy your career, why would you let that person back into your fold? I mean, that just seems stupid to me. I understand that there's things that people can walk back from, like arguments or whatever, but that seems so crazy.
Stuff is behind, so you guys can only pass that. As far as the Vosh thing goes, that's still on the rocks. You're not sure yet, right?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. There's also the thing that, like, I know that if I mobilize my community, like, this is an effort. I feel like at the end of the day, this canvassing effort is going to be carried, like, 95% by my community. So do I really want to make such a huge concession to somebody else for such little support? But, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
True.
But, anyway, I don't know. I love you guys.
All right, keep it real.
Yeah, be careful. Except for
sounds like a very capitalist answer, Destiny. Jesus.
you, Pisco, because I know what your world looks like, and nobody wants that world, Pisco.
All right, I love you guys. Bye-bye.
All right, I love you all very much. Bye.
All right, that was fun.
All right, I love you guys. It's been fun.
What is insane?
Ripperino, cappuccino, cappuccino, my tutor knows.
I just want to go after.
I wish I didn't finish that. Anyway, cool. That was an interesting video.